Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and the Blues are looking to bounce back after suffering back-to-back defeats for the first time in 2024. It's another tough assignment against the rampaging Ds. Joining me as always, as mentioned in the intro, is my good mate Lockie. Lockie, you've had a bit of time to digest the loss and move your thoughts onto the Melbourne game. How are you feeling about the Blues? Are you concerned about our form, or are you more confident that we'll bounce back with a big performance and an even bigger win?
I'm feeling confident as always, mate. I'm excited. We had our therapy session on our channel, and now it's on to the next. And honestly, you've just put it into perspective again for me. Back-to-back losses for the first time in the year. It's May. I'm used to that happening after round 2. So, put that into perspective, and you got to be happy.
Exactly. And we had an extra round as well this year, so it could have happened earlier.
Right.
But no, it's an interesting spot we are in. And as Lockie mentioned, if you want to listen or watch our own match review, hear about our thoughts on the Collingwood game, head over to where you listen to your podcast or our own YouTube channel, Navy Blue Corner. But we are here on Blue Abroad to talk about the Melbourne game, to build it up. So let's jump straight into the blueprint to victory. Lockie, let's chat about it. And we always start with, what do you want to see? Clearly, we want the win, but I want specifics. I want little points that we can sit back and reflect on next week and tick it off and say, how good's this? We've seen it. If you're watching on YouTube right now, drop down. Give us 1, 2, 3 things that you want to see from this game. And if you're listening in podcast form, head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner and let us know. But Lockie, drop me your first. What do you want to see?
Where do I want to go with this? I think, as we talked about in our review, this didn't feel like the most prevalent issue in this game, but it's been an issue for a long time. And I think what I want to see in this game is better cohesion in the forward line, us being smarter, more movement, create that space for our tools to lead into. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Martin comes back in. Maybe that changes up how we look. But I want us to be sitting, reflecting on this game and going, wow, clearly our forward line was just more cohesive in this game than we've seen in the last few weeks.
That was really one of my main points as well. So I'm glad we are very aligned. Mine was slightly more targeted towards maybe coaching, but it was still around our forward line. However, I was kind of targeting it slightly more with, I want to see a clear plan for Melbourne's strong defense. I want us to kind of out-coach them, because I'm not sure we've really done this often, and that is, to a degree, making sure we get that clear space and isolate their defenders one-on-one, because when you look at it, they've got Lever, they've got May, and now they're throwing a guy like Tom McDonald down there that did a job on Jeremy Cameron. They seem to have a really, really smart tactical setup to deal with Geelong and stifle not only their ball movement, but what they were able to create inside 50. It was a big component of what got them their win. We know what their defense is capable of. I don't want to be here next, Tuesday, Wednesday, talking about, we just kept, kicking it to Lever and May like we did in that Geelong game. We just found the guy that was on his own and just kept getting intercepted and turning the ball over. I want to see space, and I want to see a clear plan on what we can do with that. Is this TDK's down there taking a Lever or a McDonald and with Harry moving them out and clearing that space and saying, no, we're moving higher up the ground. It's Charlie down deep. I'm not sure what the plan is, but I want to see a clear one, because I'm not sure I have so far this year.
Yeah, it's got to be that solution that you said, right? We just cannot be sitting the ball on Lever's head. We can't be sitting it on, say, a Charlie May one-on-one where Lever is in a position where he can easily come over and spoil. God bless you for those sneezes.
Having a bit of a sneezing fit. I've been lucky to mute that out for the listeners, but the viewers will see me tearing up, being like, what is this man doing? So sorry to lose your train of focus.
No,
I wasn't. An absolute hay fever attack live on the pod for all those watching.
I wasn't going to address it, but when you did the sixth in a row, I felt like it had to.
PB for me. I've hit some sort of
If you kept
record.
it to 2 or 3, I wouldn't have.
I want some Guinness Book of World Records man to watch this video back and award me most sneezes in 30 seconds. Thank you.
Indeed. Yeah, I'll just wrap that up by saying, because I completely lost my train of thought, you could clearly see a scenario where if we do lose this game, us saying that the number one reason is that we just played into how they want to defend, right? So we need to be
Absolutely.
tactical.
No double teaming Charlie. I cannot see that. Did you have another thing that you wanted to see out of this game at all, Lockie?
Yeah, I mean, this one, it's hard for me to talk about the how behind it, but we need to see better pressure than we did this week, the week gone by, sorry. We were down on our tackle numbers. We know that that's been a strength for us at times. So I want to see that get back up. I want to see that ferocity. I want to see Melbourne just struggling to have clear possession, basically being under the pressure that we were last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to go maybe towards more of our hot take predictions. I want us to win the tackle count. Even if we win the game and dominate the possession, I want more tackles. That's my laying down the gauntlet this week. So I am excited to sit here next week and hopefully tick that one off. Because you keep stealing mine, I'm going to throw one out myself. Okay. Very simple. Win the midfield battle, because I'm seeing Melbourne at the moment. They're still performing well from what they are dealing with. But if you look at the stats, they're down in pretty much everything across the AFL. And as far as stoppages and clearances, center clearances, they're 13th. We're number one. Stoppage clearances, they're 13th. We're 11th. So we're beating them in both of those areas. Clearly, the substantial one is center clearances. So it looks as if that's an advantage we have going into this game, but we know how good Melbourne's midfield is. Oliver looks back to his best, so it's going to be tough. But that's our strength, and I don't want to be, like I mentioned in the Collingwood episode, saying Collingwood beat us in our strength area. I want us to win that midfield battle. Exactly. That's where that pressure needs to build from, but it also means winning the football and turning that into scores. Lockie, what else do you have as far as what do you want to see?
Yeah, I'll finish mine up with just, I guess, the biggest problem that I saw last week that we talked about in our review was the lack of supply, but that was just the result of our poor ability to move the ball from our defensive 50 to our forward 50. So I'd love to see that supply number, our inside 50 number, get up there. Just a more systematic approach. And it's not that I want us to be biting off the dangerous ball every time. It's not that I want us to never go long down the line. So many of these things are about the variety of the way that we do things. And I felt like in this game, yes, Collingwood played it well, but I did feel like there was a lot of chances for us to be more systematic with our ball movement. So I want to see more of that variety.
No, I really like it. It was clearly one of the big issues that we had against Collingwood. So let's bounce back and turn that around and make it a strength. And mine is, again, very similar to this, but I feel like I've gone the other way, which is I want us to be stronger in defending the ground, particularly on turnover. So this is the exact opposite in that. And I'm looking at Melbourne and what their strengths are right now. And their biggest one is that, and maybe this is scary for how we have been playing, but they are the number one ranked team in generating rebound inside 50s. Conversely, we're 12th. So it has been an issue, an area we need to improve, but they're great at that. What's so bizarre with their rebound inside 50s being number one is they're actually 14th overall for inside 50s. Clearly, I think that it's off this. They don't need to be damaging. So they don't need a lot to be damaging as far as generating scores. They can win games by just not having the ball in there a lot. They're more efficient, maybe like we saw at Geelong against us, rather than this team that are just continually moving that ball inside there. So that's of some concern. We just need to be stronger. We need to be smarter with where we're turning the ball over. I know that's such a dumb thing to say, but when we are taking on that kick, it needs to be at the right stages where if we do, we're smart enough to know how to deal with it. And maybe that goes back to the ball security that we're talking about on our match review, in just keep it in if we don't need to. We don't need to just use that short handball and maybe put everyone under pressure and then lose the ball, because I guess Melbourne are so deadly off that. How concerned does that make you, hearing that they're the number one team for generating those rebound inside 50s?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I don't have too much to add on that. Like, every team is going to have their ways to beat us, I suppose. And like you often talk about, you don't want to lose to what we know. You know, what the things that we can expect going in. It hurts more when you lose in that fashion than when it's something that, I guess, surprises you and you weren't to know. So, yeah, I'm sure the team are preparing in that way.
Absolutely. And I think just on the rhetoric around this game and where we are with our form dipping slightly, good teams bounce back. That's kind of where I'm seeing things at the moment.
Absolutely.
I wasn't too down on the Geelong game because I thought, there was enough to like. I thought we dominated certain areas of that game. It was just a bit of poor execution. Collingwood was a poor performance, but we were still within a kick with a minute and a half to go. That's two games we kind of weren't our best in different ways, both losses. Yep. I don't see us doing that again. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I just think that good teams, they go again, they step up when the chips are down, bounce back and show a performance. And I see us being that top 8 team. I still see us clearly being a contender. It's just about where we sit in that top 8. And we're coming up against the cream of the crop right now. And we beat GWS. We've lost to Geelong. We've lost to Collingwood. Now we get to play Melbourne. You're going to lose against some of these teams. It's just bound to happen. They're all really the elite side of the AFL right now. We've proven we can beat those smaller clubs outside the 8. We need to lay down the gauntlet, and what a better opportunity than to bounce back and just show that was just a little bit of a blip. How confident are you, Lockie?
You know me, mate. Too confident.
As always. Apologies for interrupting this episode, but I need to talk about our brand new merch. Yes, we have brand new tees for the 2024 season available now over on our Big Cartel. Links will be in the description of this episode and in the show notes. We've put a lot of work into the design, which you can see behind me if you are watching over on YouTube. Put a lot of effort into that and the quality of the tees to make sure that we give you guys the best product that we can, so you can wear and show your support for not only the pod, but also the baggers. We've got limited sizes left, so make sure you get in quick before they sell out. I'd hate for you to miss out. And those watching on YouTube will be able to see the design on screen now. If you're listening in audio form, head over to our Big Cartel or our socials at Navy Blue Corner to see the design. A big thank you to everyone who has already purchased a tee. Your support means the world. To give up your time to listen and watch us means absolutely everything. And then for you to spend your hard-earned money supporting us, I mean, there's absolutely no words to describe that. We're just forever grateful. So yes, that's going to wrap up the little merch plug here. Grab a tee now before they sell out. Links will be everywhere. You won't miss them. Back to the show. So let's go towards team selection, because it's always a very fun area to look at, and almost more so this week than ever due to the amount of players that we might actually have to select from. It's been grim a few times where really we're just switching out a sub, because even if guys are maybe not performing up to their peak, there's just no one to bring in. We have not had players fit and available. This week, the injury update has dropped. Zach Williams was subbed out with glute soreness. He's a test to play this week. McGovern with his hamstring is a test. Marchbank with his back is a test. And Jackie Martin with his hamstring is also a test to play. Those watching on Blue Abroad right now, drop me your team selections. Who's in? More importantly, who's making way? Drop all your reasonings. Keen to have the discussion in there. If you're listening in audio form, head over to the socials. Send us a DM. Tweet at us. I love chatting team selection. You know that. I'm normally on the Pommy in Oz team selection show when I am available. So there's always a lot to discuss there. Feel free to catch that. Big shout out to Pommy to listen to that. But I want to know your team changes. Most importantly, Lockie, I need yours and give me the reasoning. Let's have a nice little discussion on this because there's a lot of ways you could go.
Oh, absolutely, and I feel pretty passionate this week about it. I think we are right to make a lot of changes. Often I'd prefer to tinker. This week I want to see a fair bit of difference. So would you like me to just rattle off all my changes, or do you want to go kind of one by one discussion?
I reckon go for them all and then give me your overarching reasons.
So from the guys that we are hoping to return from injury, I'm going to go under the assumption that those 4 tests all come up well. I would be bringing in Martin and McGovern from those, and it would be Fantasia and Young that make way as my 2 kind of underperformers there. I also want to bring back Kemp, and to do that, I think it's Williams' time. Even if he comes through well from this test, he's been subbed off in 2 games recently, played every game. You know, we're very happy that he's back and playing footy for us. I think he can have a week off. I want to recall Ollie Hollands as well. He's had a week off. We didn't love the form that he was in earlier on in the season, but I think structurally I want him coming back in on the wing. And for that, I think it's time for Durden to make way for him, which will involve some reshuffling of things. And then lastly, this may be controversial, but so I'm keen to discuss it. I want to bring Kennedy in from the sub.
Ooh.
And for that, I think it's Cottrell's turn to have a week as the sub.
Oh, that is very spicy. I like that you've changed that up there because at the start you were looking way too similar to my changes, and I was worried this was going to be a really boring week. So I'm glad you've wielded the axe, which is very unlike you. I know it's normally after a loss you finally step up to the plate and come out with the hot takes, which we love to see. But no, I've gone similar, so I'll kind of say mine, and then we can have that back and forth. I have gone the big governor in for Lewis Young. Didn't play the best game on the, I guess you can call it weekend, Friday night. He's at his standard, unfortunately.
Yes.
Where
I just want to say,
one-on-one he seems fine, but there's just those moments on the ground where that's where he struggles in that kind of contested part. It looks like the confidence just isn't there. It's what you expect. He's not meant to be there.
He's our fifth tall defender.
So Gov comes in nice and easy. I've gone very similar with you in Kemp comes in. I just think we need a bit more height down there with a few of their players and a bit more of their dynamic forward line. Fritsch can move but can mark. I think we can't go small like we did against Collingwood. I agree with the Williams shout. It's more with his body than anything else. I don't think his form's been amazing, but if he's got these little niggly injuries, take the time or even just like play a half in the VFL. Just get a bit of confidence up. I think his confidence is down and I want him to be backfiring. Does managing him or dropping him hurt that? Maybe. But he's coming back from such a long-term injury that it just takes time. When we're not helping him by making him play a more defensive first role, it's exposing his weaknesses and not playing to his strengths. So if we're not going to do that, then I don't necessarily want him there. And I was really impressed with what Cowan and Chincotta were doing in the defense. So I don't kind of want to drop those guys off their performances. Same with Boyd to throw in there.
Yep. Agreed.
Martin comes in for Fantasia. I think he's our best small mid-sized forward. Fantasia just hasn't been doing enough. We spoke about what he's been doing with his leads and is he creating space for others? Even if he is doing that, there wasn't evidence of that on Friday night and he's not doing enough with the ball or around it. So he's gone. No. And then I'm keeping Kennedy in the team. I didn't mind him as the sub, but I think Melbourne have a really fierce midfield, so I like the idea of having him in there. And I liked how he functioned, just plugging a few different holes around the ground. I think he earns a spot in the team, which means a guy like Corey Durden makes way, just because I think we've got enough of these mid-forward connectors now in this team that you can afford. Like, I don't think Fantasia's been that small forward. I think he's been more half forward. We've got enough. Therefore, with Martin maybe taking Durden's spot, I think that's fine. And Kennedy can stay in. And then I've got Ollie Hollands basically replacing as the sub. I think I kind of would like him in the team for the sense that I think we lost something with Cottrell playing the wing role. Him not being
Yes.
that mid-forward connector hurt us in the way we moved the ball, creating those inside 50s. He wasn't bad on the wing, but it's probably not his preferred position. I'm giving it another week to see it play out against a different opposition. I'm not sure Ollie Hollands was performing enough previously to just throw him back in. So I'm putting him in as the sub, fresh legs, guy that can run, can play anywhere, can move others around. So, yeah, what are your kind of thoughts? Give me a bit more, I guess, in your reasoning of why you want Cottrell out of this team, because that's probably the bone of contention that we have different as the main one.
Well, I'm loving your changes. Extremely similar to mine. I didn't expect them to be so similar, to be honest. And I think when I did my first draft of this, we had identical. And I was also going to go with Hollands as a sub. My thinking on that was essentially Holland's having a rest and to be fresh. Cottrell is basically running the furthest of anyone in the AFL right now. So then thinking about him playing his best footy, as you'd agree, as the connector, I don't mind the idea of doing, what we did last week again with him. But for me, I like what Hollands can bring off a week off. So put him to the wing. And then if you look at our connectors, and I'm like, which one of them am I putting to the sub? Cunningham, it's hard for me to talk about his game. I thought he did some really good things at times. So I don't necessarily want to put him to the sub. Same with Elijah. I think he deserves a full game. So just kind of, and then Kennedy, I wouldn't go with back-to-back subs. So then I kind of land with, well, Cottrell, if you're not going to be the wing guy, you might be my third favourite connector out of those three.
It's probably where I disagree on that, which I'm happy to, because we don't do it often. So it's nice to have these conversations. I guess I would, if I'm going down your train of thought, I'd probably have Cunningham be the sub instead. I agree. He did some nice things. He was probably the best at using the ball inside 50 and moving that for us, but he looked a little fresh at stages, like a guy that has missed a lot of footy. And he does that typical David Cunningham thing where he just doesn't look like he's involved in the game for 3/4 of it. And then he'll just bob up with a nice kick inside 50 and you go, oh, more of that would be scrumptious. But I'm just not sure he affected the game enough. With him coming off the injury and with Cottrell's body of work, I just think even in that game, he hits the scoreboard and has another opportunity earlier in the game to make it 2 goals. I still think he offered more. So, and just, I guess, based off everything I've seen this year, I think it's a bit harsh to drop him, but this is the tough thing. There's going to be these tough discussions where quality guys, when we're all fit, are going to make way.
Oh, exactly right.
It's about getting that balance right. I do like your reasoning, but I'm very happy to disagree with that one. I love it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I totally see your reasoning as well. I think, like, similar to like the Williams point, like I think if fully healthy, he is in our best team still. But just considering all the elements of it, I think it makes sense. And that's kind of where I'm at with Cottrell too. Like, he's played pretty much 90% game time in every game. He runs the most. We love him. He plays a very specific role. And yeah, it's a tough thing.
It is. Last question on the team. I'll just ask you. He's probably the one I have the least confidence in being fit. Regardless of whether he's a test, whether he's set as full fit. It's Jack Martin. We love the man. We want to see him out there. On the provision here that he is the one that doesn't get up, isn't available to play the match, I think he's the most difficult to replace because, if Gov's not there, then Young stays in. If, all the others are pretty simple. What do you do if Jack Martin doesn't come up? Do you keep in a Durden? Do you keep in a Fantasia? Are you throwing in Cottrell and saying, screw the small forwards, I'm sick of them, we're going with pace and movement? How are you seeing that position? And is someone else moving into a more marking role? I'm keen to see where you take this.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it would be Cottrell to come in to play the full game. Not sure who I would land on with the sub, but I spoke about it on the review and I've been on all season. I just don't think we get enough holistically from having Owies, Durden, and Fantasia in the team. And I know there's plenty of ways that you can talk about what they do bring, and I like to think of myself as not someone that is just bound by numbers, and it's not that. It's the eye test and what I think that these guys can bring. And Cottrell playing in the role that one of those guys is trying to play, I think will do at least as good a job, but more likely better. And then with your sub, yeah, whatever. Just don't make Bins a sub again, please.
No, that's absolutely fair. I think I'll go with Durden. He's had some okay games where he has at least hit the scoreboard. And GWS, he did bring a bit of pressure. So I'd be saying, if that's the case, hey, Durden, you're in. And I'd be giving him a minimum tackle amount that he has to hit regardless. And then we'll have a conversation whether he's in the team next week. I want to see some forward pressure from that man. I'd be saying your role is to be Lockie Fogarty. I don't care what you do. Whether you kick goals or not, be the pressure in that forward line. That's what I want.
You think we'd be more likely to win with that rather than Cunningham in? Like Cunningham is the sub still.
I would still be having Cunners in the team, so I wouldn't necessarily be worrying about that. Like my changes it'd literally just be.
Oh, who was your sub again?
Mine's Ollie Hollands.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you had Cunningham sub. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just more run there. Yes, so now let's pivot towards a great segment. And it's one I love. It's probably my favorite one because you throw me in the hot seat every single week. It is Grill the Corner. And he's not allowed to fence it. I can't believe I referred to myself in third person. Can someone give me a rinse? That may be one of the worst things I've ever done on the pod. But yes, this is where we get the listener questions. If you ever want to send them in, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter at Navy Blue Corner. It's where we chuck them out every single week. And if you want your questions answered, if we haven't covered them, if you've just thought of one as we're speaking, if you're watching on YouTube, chuck them in the comments. I will be there. I will be making sure to answer them all. Hit us up on the socials, DM us. Had a couple this week that had a few questions throughout the week and sent them in. I tell you what, you make my day at work so much more bearable because I'm actually able to just forget about that and answer and talk about the Blues. So yes, hit us up with your questions. But those that did, Lockie, what have they asked? And I am not allowed to fence it.
Yeah, we know the drill around here. 0 fence sitting. This is a good one from Andrew. We didn't talk a lot about this, or if we did touch on it at all in our review. So from Andrew, is it Pitternet that's affecting our ball movement and turnover, or is it the lack of quality defenders like Sard and McGovern? I've heard a lot on this, that Pitternet is the reason it makes us slower, but I'm not convinced on this. We've seen a bit more from Pitt now.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of finger pointing at that he's kind of the problem for ball movement.
I don't think he is. It's hard to just pin it down on one player. I liked that I was reading a bit of a discussion on Twitter between a few people. So apologies to whoever said this because I can't remember. But they said something like, I feel like blaming Pitto for things because we're 1 and 2 since he came in. So is Walsh. So he's saying that Walsh is actually the problem in the midfield and why we're struggling on turnover. You're not having that argument, but you are with Pitt. So I don't know. I feel like it's more layered than that right now. It's a team game. He's giving us first use quite a lot, which shouldn't hurt us in that department. I think he's been better around the ground than I've seen him ever.
Absolutely.
Whereas a lot of times last year, I'm yelling at the TV or I'm yelling at the ground, being like, "You are 5 meters away, Pitto. Run! You are faster than walking pace right now.
Different.
Put some pressure on." I've seen him put more pressure and be involved around the ground. So I'm not seeing that as the issue. I don't think we're losing the run that way. I probably just see it as everyone's kind of down on the pressure around the ball, the tackling, where we're turning the ball over, where we're setting up defensively. I think that's more of the problem and where I would put it. But I understand why people would think that you bring in a slower player and it kind of changes the function of the team. I just don't agree with it at this stage. But I guess we'll see more of the sample size, and maybe we'll get proven wrong.
Exactly. I have nothing to add on that. That was perfect. And I guess kind of tying to that question, I mean, and it's kind of the broader, I guess, what's underlying of this from M. What are your thoughts on the 2 rucks at the moment? Is the focus on the clearance game costing us elsewhere due to lack of speed on the ball? They were 4-0 before Pito, 1-3 since.
The 2 rucks is interesting. We had so many discussions about it, flip-flopping a little bit, and we kind of stayed at, let's just see it for like a month and then we'll come back to it. Right now, I am, and this may be controversial. This is maybe a hot take.
Let's say
I would be more inclined to, if we are to make a change, drop TDK and see what a Pito with Harry chopping in the ruck more than I am dropping Pito. I think what I'm seeing with us winning it around stoppage and creating those chances are better with Pito than it is DeConing right now. And we're changing the forward line with a DeConing going down there. Are we better? Is that hurting us in the forward line? Did we look more dynamic when we didn't have an extra tall down there? Maybe, but our forward line's always kind of been an issue. So right now, I want to see Jack Martin in this team. I'd love to see Motlop and see what that looks like right now with the 2 rucks. But if I was to make a change, I'd want to see the one thing I haven't, which is the Pito-Harry combination, to see if that changes things in the sense of, do we open up more space inside 50? I know that hurts us with Pito resting in the forward line, but maybe we just become way more dynamic in a sense. Maybe Cripper spends time there. Maybe we find different avenues. But yeah, I'm okay with the 2 rucks. I'm not finding it as such a big issue that maybe others are.
Yeah, interesting. I'm gonna jump in and say, anyone that's typing a comment right now based on that, just take a deep breath, because I need to take a deep breath, because that is a hot take. But I understand where you're coming from, because we are preaching learning at this stage of the season and trying things, and as you correctly said, that is the one thing that we haven't seen. So yeah, but as you started your answer with, we still, it's a while before we want to try something like that, because we haven't seen enough yet. And there's lots of different things to tinker with before we get there.
Yeah, I'd preface that with saying it's not that I think that that's the best combo. I don't know what the best combo is, so I kind of want to see them all to make a bit more of a judgment. But yeah, let us know. What are you thinking of the 2 rucks? Do you think we need to change things? Is that the problem? Let us know in the comments. Let us know on the socials. Very keen to hear the answers to that one, because it is spicy. And what do you think of my hot take as well? It's not unlike me, I feel.
It is, but that's okay. I like it. A bit of variety.
It's about time.
I think this is an interesting question, because it's probably phrased in the heat of the moment, but there's probably elements of it that we can dive into. So from Tim, why does Fantasia keep getting a game?
Great question. Wish Michael Voss was asked that to a degree. I mean, we speculated talking about, is it what he was creating with his running patterns? That's kind of the thing that I assumed it was, that they liked him with ball in hand and what he was creating. But I don't know. I tried to really focus on it against Collingwood, and I just did not see it at all for the whole game. I wasn't seeing the positive side of his game, whereas at least a lot of players, I was able to be like, yeah, cool, this is what you're bringing, this is the positive. I think if and I'm still theorizing, I'm not certain, if that's the thing he's bringing, it can't just be that. You need to be doing more. We spoke about this last year with certain individual players, and where we're trying to evolve the squad. You can't just have like baseline like attributes. You need to evolve on that. You can't just be a tackler like we were talking with Fogarty. You need to be bringing something else. He brought that this year. He was kicking goals. He was creating more. He was having more of an influence. Fantasia hasn't been doing that. So I'm not sure what they're believing he's doing that helps us right now that maybe someone else isn't. But maybe it's simply down to personnel where, hey, if a Martin's fit, if a Motlop's fit, he doesn't see game time. I'm not certain.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to kind of ponder. I I like how you addressed it. I mean, something for me, obviously, I was excited of us bringing Fantasia to the club of what we've seen from him in the past. What would be the point of us bringing him in to the club, playing him a couple games, and not giving him a good chance at it? So it's then where do you draw the line of how much of a chance do you give a player? Like, I've hit my threshold now, but players after round 2 were calling for Fantasia to be dropped, and I was very much like, let's give him some time. So I think he's kind of earned it in a way. The fact that he must have had a good preseason, he's done it in the past, he deserves to have a go. So even taking away what we've just seen on the field in these 8 games, I think he's kind of earned that a little bit in a way. And yeah, I think I'd be very surprised if Martin is fit this week and we do see Fantasia as well. I think part of it as well is something that we kind of talked about it. I feel like last year at times, maybe just theorizing again, maybe his role is a placeholder for Motlop. Like maybe the coaches are saying, well, we know that Motlop is in this best team, like, and Fantasia's kind of we'll do that role. So then when Motlop's fit to come back in, switch him over, and it's not as jarring. I don't know. Yeah, it's a fair question to ask though.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm going to finish it off with one from Gavin. Gav, this is a tricky one, but he asked, does the open spaces of the G make it harder for us to bring our pressure game? Or is it one of personnel?
Oh, that's interesting. See, it's funny that he brings that up because I was thinking with Marvel, it's almost like the opposite. Because that ground is smaller, it's so much easier for someone to get a hat kick away and all of a sudden the ball's out in space. Therefore, it can be really hard to defend the ground because it's so quick. As soon as you get 2 kicks, you're inside 50, whereas the G, it's a lot harder. So you have, I guess you have more space to defend, but you've kind of got more space to your advantage to lock the ball in. So I don't know. I didn't have that perspective, I guess, because I was seeing it the other way. I just think you look at our tackle numbers, you look at the energy levels to some degree against Collingwood. I'm hoping that we were just really down for that week as far as our pressure was concerned, because we've seen it be so good in other weeks. I hope the G isn't an issue because, I don't know, last year we played so many games at the G in that final run. We even played them at Marvel and we were amazing. Our pressure was the first thing you noticed every single week. We were hunting, tackling in numbers. Just bring that back. I don't want to blame a ground for it because we're going to be playing anywhere and everywhere. So maybe it does, but I don't know. I'm happy to just say, stuff it, boys. I don't care if you're playing in Bangladesh, if you're playing in Shanghai, doesn't matter. Get those tackles up and about.
Absolutely, I agree. I don't know what the data says about where we play our best footy. I feel like I'd
love to know.
Could make reasons for each. But anyway, thanks for grilling Ian, everyone.
Absolutely. And so the last thing that we'll touch on before we really wrap this episode up is talking about a bit of Navy noise, the big kind of talking point this week that we kind of haven't covered a lot in detail. So I want to talk about this, and this is maybe it doesn't need a deep discussion. Maybe this is surface level bringing it up, but I feel like we've danced around it a fair bit in our Collingwood review, which you can get wherever you listen to your podcasts and on our own YouTube channel, Navy Blue Corner. Links will be everywhere. And in this episode you're listening or watching right now, talking about coaching. Do you think that we have a bit of a coaching problems, maybe too harsh a word, but a bit of an issue right now? Because I want to ask you this big gotcha hot take question.
Do it.
Have we ever really out-coached another team? Have you come away from a performance and said, wow, tactically we just, they had no answers and we killed them. So smart. What a great coached game.
It's definitely hard to recall that.
I agree.
It's an interesting point to pose. I'm definitely happy to have that chat. It's not something that I feel super passionately about, but you do tend to feel like it's always the other way if it does occur, right?
And that's where I guess I've kind of stemmed this thought off, because I was sitting there watching the game at the G against Collingwood and thought, wow, first quarter, We came in with a plan. Everything seemed to be working really well. Collingwood make an adjustment, and then all of a sudden we just couldn't adjust to their adjustment. Like we just couldn't get over that. And then it kind of made me think that felt in a game where you went, Collingwood didn't have those key midfielders. They were down and they pulled a lever, and all of a sudden tactically they were better. And then I'm thinking, okay, against Geelong, they had a plan for us defensively. They had a plan for us offensively. And I'm looking at things like both ways. Like, how often do we have an effective plan to quell the opposition's strengths? We haven't been able to stop Geelong and Collingwood's fast spread that we know they're going to bring. We didn't limit like a Jeremy Cameron's impact, whereas Melbourne had a specific plan, shut him down. We didn't really seem to have a specific thing other than X player goes on Jeremy Cameron, and we hope that we win that matchup. And conversely, have we been able to take advantage of our strengths and set up tactics to use that to overawe the opposition? Like, we haven't created the space inside 50 for our key forwards. I don't believe we exploited favorable matchups. Harry on Frampton on Friday, he kicks a few goals early. Why aren't we immediately really isolating Harry, saying, okay, sorry, Charlie, you're now going really high up the ground and creating space, because we've got a mismatch where they're either going to have to switch this up and all of a sudden Charlie has Frampton, or they stick with it and just Harry just starts kicking bags. I know there was an issue with moving the ball inside 50, but I'm surprised we didn't look to get that key matchup on our positive. You know, Collingwood's midfield without Mitchell and De Goey, we couldn't dominate that clearance stoppage battle where we probably should have. Geelong didn't have Stewart. We didn't get that forward separation. We kept kicking it to their spare rather than dominating in that area that you maybe think we should as a strength. Whereas I think, unlike those other teams, I don't think we give them headaches tactically. Feels like it's more personnel headaches. Feels as if other teams always give us those headaches. And really thinking about the Melbourne game and what they did to Geelong, that was a tactical masterclass in quelling their ball movement and what they did defensively. They do that to us. What are we planning on doing to counter?
Yeah, very, very interesting. I like it. I do like it. And I'll because you bring it up, I'll challenge you on it. So, because I think it's too easy to use hindsight in this, and for us to now go to, you know, the Melbourne game and look at it back. So, do you think that there is something tactical here in this game that you could imagine us, you know, fast forward to a week and reflecting on? Wow, last week we said that Voss and the coaching team isn't tactical enough about the direct opposition, but they were this week.
Yes.
What would be that thing if you cast yourself forward?
Yeah, it would really be around the what do you want to see at the start of this episode, talking about their key defenders, and they've shut down teams with their, you know, May and Lever partnership, being able to just intercept and pick things off. I want us to come up with a way to get the matchups we want inside our forward line and just push them out of the space. Isolate either Harry deep or isolate Charlie deep, because Stephen May's a great defender, but one-on-one, you're giving us more of an advantage than if Lever's right there to be able to intercept, or there's you know, Tom McDonald's there to cause us mayhem. Too often we allow the outnumber, and it always happens against Melbourne. So if we seem to have some strategy that is working, that is making them have to come up with other ways to get their players free, that's kind of what I'm really looking for. That would be my key focus if I'm Carlton, saying, how do Melbourne want to actually strategize this? How do we want to do it? And then how do we adjust? Because that's also my issue, is we fall into the trap of, as soon as they adjust, we're going, let's keep going on plan A. Let's keep going with what we were doing and just hope the execution works, rather than, I think we need to switch something up. I think one of the only games we've kind of really adjusted, you could say, was the GWS game, where something clicked in the middle of the park, slowed things down, turned it on. we win that game. Probably the Brisbane game as well. So it is something we seem to have been able to do, just maybe not as consistent as I would like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like it. I think we're going to be fortunate this week. I mean, let me touch all the wood here. And with the team changes that you and I are putting out there, if we have Martin in this team and both of the rucks and everything, this feels like as good a scenario as any for us to really be able to spread out, have options leading up the field to the halfway where we need them, but also having them connector and having someone deep. Like, this feels like as good a chance of any of us to really play to that strength. So, I mean, like I said earlier on, I'm going to be upset if we lose this one and we reflect and say that every single time we went forward, it was either levers, two hands to it, or fist to it. That's going to be a bad way to lose.
No, 100%. And just to kind of finish this kind of point, and just kind of looking at each line at the moment and what's functioning well, what are the areas to improve? I think forward line, the functionality and structure seem to be poor. It's something we've never kind of gotten right. We're not creating the easy looks. Don't seem to be using the advantage of having the two best forwards in the game, the best partnership. We need to figure that out. And maybe that is as simple as the smalls are wrong. We don't have Motlop. We don't have Jack Martin there, but I do still think there's a problem with how the smalls are working and the goals we're getting from them, the pressure. That's something we need to sort this out coaching-wise, get the best out of the personnel there. I think midfield, ruck pairing haven't necessarily nailed, but I think when the mids aren't working with their brutal pressure, we look really bad. They're not working around the ground, but there's enough in that midfield that I'm happy they'll sort that out and get that going. And then defensively, I'm pretty happy with. It's probably our best line right now. I don't blame them for the easy entries. They could probably function a little bit better, but I think a lot of that's down to personnel. I think they're defending well for what they have. It's the movement and generation that needs to improve. And that's a Governor Sard issue really for me rather than anything else. So we're in a decent place. I think we know what we need to do to win this game and to get over the losses of the last couple of games. But, I mean, they were close games. We're playing really good opposition. Small tweaks, and this could be an easy win. And all of a sudden, Carlton are back to being contenders again. That's just the funny way of this narrative. But is there anything else, Lockie, that you wanted to touch on before we wrap this episode up?
We've got beautiful merch available.
We definitely do. It is behind me. I'll make sure that those, don't worry, Lockie, don't worry.
Yeah.
Those that are watching and listening will be like, what are you talking about, Lockie? They've already talked about the merch because I've done it in post. I've recorded a little bit of a merch plug to throw in there because like I normally do in making this run sheet and getting it all sorted, I forgot to do it in person earlier. So I'm going to have to put that in post. So it will be there. You would have heard it. But again, because we got to keep telling the lovely people about it. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you'll see the merch behind you. Navy blue corner is on there. It's got the year of, 24 in Roman numerals for those that love the different kind of numbering.
Our premiership
and lettering.
Year.
It's quite fancy. So make sure to, if you are interested in purchasing some merch and supporting the podcast, head over to our shop over on Big Cartel. Links will be in the description. Links will be in the show notes. And I just have to say, massive shout out and thank you to everyone that has picked up a tee so far.
Absolutely.
It's insane that people, particularly, I guess, in this kind of time of financial just mayhem that it is at the moment, that people are spending their money on us and on a little Carlton podcast. That's always crazy. So just massive thank you to everyone that has. Really appreciate it. And we tried to make a lovely little design for you to give something back so you can wear a t-shirt to the footy that isn't just directly a Carlton related thing. So head over to the Big Cartel to pick up a tee. It'll be shipped out straight to you, and I'll write a little note for you as well. So hopefully you have a bit of a giggle. But that's going to wrap up this episode here. If you want to go back and listen to our Collingwood review, it's on our own YouTube channel, Navy Blue Corner. We'll be back next week again on our own YouTube channel with a match review of the Melbourne game, and then right back on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel Wednesday night, 8 p.m. to build up the next game against the Swans. Cannot wait. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.